Hello. Hi, welcome to another live broadcast on LinkedIn and YouTube. I call this series Unleash Your Green Gorilla because we talk about a number of issues that might interest you if you are a sustainability enthusiast or a sustainability professional. And because my company is called Green Gorilla, you are my Green Gorilla. You can unleash your Green Gorilla by honing your skills. So that's the main thing that we promote here at Green Gorilla. So I'm Virginia Cinquemani. I'm the director and founder of Green Gorilla Consultants, but I'm also the author of a book called Sustainable: How to Find Success as a Sustainability Professional in a Rapidly Changing World. Today, I'm going to talk about passion and whether passion is the main ingredient, perhaps the only ingredient you think, for sustainability to become, to find meaningful work. I work with people at different stages of their career, and this idea of passion comes into play quite a lot. So let me explain and let's discuss. But I would love you to say hello if you are here and you're listening to me. I can read the comments and we can have a nice discussion if you want. You can tell me your experience. So tell me about you and your passion and whether that how has it served you into your life? Has it helped you? Has it been the only ingredient? But yeah, I apologize for my bad hair day, but hairdressers in the UK have been closed for at least a month. And so now I started sporting a number of things to try and calm my hair. So anyway, life in lockdown, guys. I hope you're doing well, by the way. It's not laughable. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know whether passion is something that has influenced your career, especially in sustainability, because as I say very often, sustainability is a vocation. It's like being a doctor. Unless you love it, it's very difficult that you actually throw yourself into sustainability, especially when you are, say, a consultant. You are at the front end of explaining sustainability to others. Maybe you train people or you design sustainable products. Unless it's part of your DNA in a way, it's a vocation for you. It's very hard that you choose it. I mean, of course, there are more and more companies choosing to act sustainably because they want to jump on the bandwagon, as you were. But for individuals, often it comes from a place of values. So sustainability sure probably is one of your values. Hi, Jaime. Lovely to see you again in one of my lives. So how do you choose your career path? And, oh, thanks, Anna. You like my hairstyle. It's very hippie. It's very sustainable, isn't it? Yeah, I've been very, very tree hugger today, through to the name Green Gorilla. So how do you choose sustainability as a career path? As I said, probably one element of it is your passion, is the vocation that you have. And I'm actually wondering whether you choose sustainability as a path, because for some people, they just end up in it. Maybe they get in touch with sustainability in the company they work for, and then, they like it and they keep on going. But anyway, how do you choose your path in general when you want to look for new work? Now, I think choosing your career is a bit like dating. So think about when you want to date someone. Now, for me, it's been a long time, but hey, probably you start with passion, right? Probably you start with, you want to feel that, warm feeling, and, you want to be feeling so happy and everything. So it does start with passion, but I would reckon if it was only passion, it would finish probably pretty soon. Because if you want a long-term relationship, I tell you guys, having gone there a couple of times, it doesn't quite work out. You need other ingredients to it. Hello, Anna. Lovely to see you here. So passion cannot be the only reason why you choose sustainability, and it can't be the only element to choose which path to take in sustainability. I'd say we all use a combination of conscious reasoning. So your brain thinking, okay, is a new direction in the market, is going to help me find work. Perhaps, there are more opportunities because all companies are moving towards sustainability, etc. I like it. So the reasoning also goes into, okay, I'll be happy there. Okay, but you also use your guts sometimes, although you might not realize. And I think in modern society, we actually rely less on our gut instinct. But I tell you, as an entrepreneur, you do use your gut instinct quite a lot, because sometimes you don't have a crystal ball to see your future. Although I do look like a fortune teller, don't I? You don't have a crystal ball, so you can only use your reason in a way to think, okay, these are the elements that I have available to me right now to choose that particular career. But in terms of decision, is usually coming from the gut. Now, something that you might not know is that the gut contains more than 100 million nerve cells that very recently, in the last 10 years, has been discovered that they communicate with your brain directly, not through hormones that go through your bloodstream, but through neurons. So it means you effectively have like a mini brain in your gut, which sounds a bit like alien, but literally the size of those nerve cells is like the brain of a cat or a dog. So you actually have two brains. You need to start listening to what your gut says. And I'm sure for myself, and I don't know whether you guys have experienced the same, but sometimes I know that my gut instinct is the first thing that comes, but much quicker than my brain. And then I might decide otherwise. And then I go back to thinking like, oh, I should have followed my gut instinct because that was the right thing to do. And it's really difficult to explain in a logical way, because I don't think there is enough research to tell you why your gut instinct will be so right versus your brain that is actually a logical machine, an incredible logical machine. But we know very little about energy and energy fields and that sort of thing. But there is an element of that. Is like your instinct as a human being for survival tell you often the right thing, and then your brain process it a bit more in a lengthy way. Yeah, I can see your comments, Jaime. Isn't the passion your main drive to discover where you fit? Okay, Anna's asking, isn't the passion your main drive to discover where you fit and where you can work to reach goals towards this? I think passion is one element, and I'm not discounting it at all. Okay, passion, gut instinct, they're all sort of connecting to emotions, and emotions are very important for us, especially human beings. Yeah, different from animals and plants probably, although they do feel something. We can't just live in a rational space. We also have to follow our feelings. But there are other factors. So when you go and choose, when you are attracted, and I'll explain whether it's just passion, but I would rephrase it in a different way, but I'll tell you in a minute. So when you choose sustainability, there are other things. So when you look for a job that you look for, obviously external factors like the variety of the work. That if you're a creative person, you might not find happiness in doing the same job again and again and again every day. And variety is one important element of any job satisfaction. I think even the manual workers sometimes can feel the pressure of it. I mean, the thing is, how do I say? There is no right or wrong in a way, but these things that I'm about to list are the important bits that usually make work meaningful. The variety of the work you do, the type of work environment, the colleagues you have, the conditions of work, the workload you have, if it's too big, too little, the educational opportunities that the job offers you, and finally, but not least, making a difference. So these are the external factors that usually we take into consideration, whether consciously or unconsciously again, or maybe these are the things that when we are already in a job might make or break that particular job. If you think about your past working experience, Sometimes you hate your boss, and so you change jobs. So that's the work environment, that's the colleagues. Sometimes you felt you were not rewarded enough for the workload you had. So maybe it was too much for what you were paid for. Or maybe it was boring. Once you learned what to do, then it was, it wasn't stimulating enough. So that's the variety. So these are usually factors that we take into consideration, or we don't. And that's the key. You need to really think about these that we call the work values. You have your, major values like sustainability, ethical behavior, etc., etc. So the higher level ones, freedom, etc. But then you have other values that are really important at work, including the ones that are just listed. Awareness. Now, let me go into something. So these are usually the external factors that influence whether a job is fulfilling or meaningful as such. And the last one that I said, making a difference. So for us in sustainability is probably one of the main drivers. We want to make a difference. We want to know that what we do makes a difference in other people's lives. We want to see that our singular individual efforts actually are worth it. And we want to be rewarded for it. The reward sometimes is in itself, so making a difference to others, contributing to making this planet a more livable planet, or maybe helping with charitable activities. All of this as an intrinsic reward. So the actual thing that you do rewards you. So you don't need money for that. And that's why sometimes it's really hard for us in sustainability to ask for money. And I think that's why the sector is really badly paid on average, because people rely on the fact that we do this because we love it. And that's where passion is, The other thing is, whatever job you're doing in the world, passion in itself cannot fuel it forever. As I said, it might be the driving force, it might be what takes you there, but there are other things that will keep the flame going. And some of them are the ones that are just listed, so the external factors, but then there are other internal factors that are really, really important, like flow. I don't know whether you have awareness of this. So flow. This is a concept, and I'm going to, I'm not going to mention the author that actually is an expert in flow, because his surname is impossible to it's impossible to pronounce, but and hopefully will forgive me. But flow is a concept that is probably been developed in the last couple of decades, which is effectively that state is a semi-conscious state that you enter when you do something that you enjoy enormously, or that gets you into a state where you don't see the time passing. For example, for me, when I draw, I forget where I am. I forget, what's the time. I forget, whoever is screaming at me, usually my kids. So I am in the state of flow. I'm doing something that I'm able to do decently well, and I enjoy that process. I'm not learning. I'm actually in a state in which I'm actually very capable, and I do it, and I love. Is inherently rewarding as well. So you know what I mean. For example, someone who plays an instrument might have the same feeling when they play. Hi, Russ. It's lovely to see you here. And hello, Maria Alessandra. Thank you for your comment. Can I have a list of these work values, please? Yes, Anna. So I was talking about variety, work environment, colleagues, and working conditions, workload, educational opportunities, and making a difference. Variety, work environment and colleagues and conditions, workload, educational opportunities, and making a difference. Yeah, okay. I'm going to go to your comment in a minute, Russ. So flow is another thing. When we think passion is fueling our work, is because we enter in a state of flow. This is something that we enjoy so much, or that we do so well. That's the other thing. You might not enjoy enormously what you do. I remember, for example, writing bids back in the days when I was in the corporate world. It's not that I would enjoy them enormously, but I was so concentrated and I was spending so much time thinking about it that I would enter in a state of flow. When I was writing for my book, I would enter a state of flow. So is that perfect balance between something that is stimulating to you and something that is, and it's just the right level of challenge, I would say. If it's too easy, then it's boring. If it's too difficult, then it's actually frustrating. So it's that perfect balance. Okay, so state of flow. The other element is meaning. And for us, this, and it's possibly the rust. When you say passion was enough for me, I followed my passion relentlessly, and all the opportunities and everything else followed. That is a combination of the elements that I'm telling you now. Flow, so it's probably a matter of language, the way you call it, but flow, meaning, which means what you're doing, you think has a positive effect on the rest of the world, and your talents meet the need of the world. Is when you feel really that you are contributing and your contribution is acknowledged. I speak to a lot of clients in my coaching. And some people, although they like what they do, they don't feel acknowledged for their efforts, even though they do really good work. And that's one of the elements that is disappointing often when we have, especially when we work with someone else. If our boss is not recognizing our efforts, then is when the meaning starts diminishing a bit, because you are making a contribution, but nobody is giving you a pat on the back. Or maybe what you see or what you do is not meaningful enough in itself to be self-fulfilling. In the work I do, I love it. For me, it's full of meaning. I love teaching people about sustainability. I love teaching people about communication of sustainability and all of this stuff. And for me, the work itself is rewarding. But in other cases, it might not be the case. Finally, so we talked about flow, we talked about meaning, and the final element that really makes meaningful work is freedom. And that goes back to awareness in a way. Awareness is important because when you are aware of all of these elements, when you are aware of the external working conditions and what's happening inside you, then you start putting, the elements together, and then you start thinking, okay, maybe what I'm doing doesn't fulfill me enough because of lack of this, for example. So freedom is another big thing. The responsibility that you get given, the amount of accountability you have in the work you do, and the autonomy. I think, I can't remember the percentage, but this is the lack of freedom, the lack of autonomy in the work we do is one of the biggest reasons why people leave their work. Micromanagement is one of the things that really kill perfectly happy employees, because we all want to be feeling in control of our own lives. Feeling not in control is not a great feeling. And so this happens to actually impinge in one of the main needs that you have as a human being, to feel like you're in control of your life. So let me see this. Anna is asking, so the reward acknowledgement is the meaning. No, not necessarily. It sort of reinforces it. So when you are doing something in sustainability, when you work in sustainability, you're doing it because there is something bigger than you. Okay, let's call it that. Meaning is when you do something that is bigger than you, something that is larger than you as a human being. So contributing to, towards helping people with Alzheimer, contributing towards planting trees for, a better planet, working towards eradicating poverty. These are huge, huge issues. And if you feel that you're doing your little bit, you feel inherently human. You're part of the community. You're part of a bigger thing. And that's when meaning comes. But when you don't, but if it's not that big, if it's not that grand, and you don't get rewarded by your boss, let's say, or you don't get a pat in the back, that's when, your job starts losing meaning. I'll give you an example. When I used to work in architecture, I actually reached my tipping point when I left, when I got given as a task to draw 6 bathrooms for a luxury mansion in Chelsea. And if someone has read my book, that's an example that I wrote there, because it was at such a pivotal moment in my life. And I remember the meaningless discussions with the owner of the house that was saying, 9 people around the table discussing 6 freaking bathrooms. And she was saying, how important it is when we put the toilet brush. At that point, I had it. I was like, this is it. This is meaningless. I wasn't getting much reward from my bosses. I had 3 bosses at that time, which again wasn't that great. Not autonomy there, no freedom. So they weren't really making me feel like I was contributing towards even this meaningless job. So I didn't have the external reward, and I didn't have the internal reward. I didn't have anyone to say, you're doing a good job. And I didn't have anyone, and that particular job in itself was completely meaningless. So there wasn't any inherent meaning in that. So I think either of the two need to be there. For sustainability people, sometimes, as I said, is enough to contribute to something larger than you, to something that contributes towards a better world. For others is, a job well done, and maybe someone that says, you're being really good. Meaning is in that sense. It could be it could be a bigger thing, or it could be a job well done and someone that tells you you've done a good job, or it's a number of things. And I think in a way we all have different ways of measuring it. For me, is definitely contributing to the to the good of the world, and it's when my talent meets what the world needs, which is also part of the Ikigai concept that I've already covered in some of these lives. Now, how do we get there though? So we said, okay, passion, important to start, important to look for something, but you need to have flow in your work, you need to have meaning in your work, you need to have freedom. And it might be that your passion for sustainability, in the case of Russ, I know Russ very well. In the case of Russ, he's a self-employed person. So he creates his own meaning, he creates his work, he rewards himself in a way. And of course, he has the freedom to do what he likes, and he gets into flow because he likes and he does what he does very well. For other people that are employed, all of this needs to be taken into consideration, particularly. Yes. Okay. So Elisabetta, thank you for reminding me. The flow is it's been actually analyzed by Mihaly. Oh gosh, Csikszentmihalyi. Sorry, man. I'm really sorry, but it's fascinating. Watch the TED Talk. Just type, flow TED Talk, and it's really fascinating topic, flow. And there are many, many ways in which you can create flow, but it's usually a balance between something that you do well and in a good element of challenge. So is, when you have that work that stimulates your brain, but you have the confidence to do it, if that makes sense. So how do we go on about that? Because if passion is not enough, probably, especially if you're looking for a job at the moment and you are passionate about it, what do you need to do next? I get a lot of questions about, okay, for example, I have this degree in sustainability, or, maybe a generic degree in geography or something, but I want to get into sustainability. I'm confused about the choice. What do I do? So obviously passion for sustainability in itself doesn't grant you a job. That's obvious. And perhaps your technical knowledge doesn't grant you a job in itself unless you have a clear idea where you want to go. But what if you don't know where to go? And how can you find meaningful work? So stuff that is in line with your values. Ask yourself these 3 questions. What are you good at, that you're curious about and you like doing? I'm going to say that again. What are you good at, that you're curious about and you like doing? So I always say I'm very good at cleaning my bathrooms, but I don't necessarily like it. So I wouldn't look for a job where I have to clean the bathrooms day in, day out. Although I did it when I was working in a restaurant many, many years ago. I was good at it, not something that I like doing. And I'm not curious about it. For me, the job ends in there. I'm not curious about that. Curiosity is a better driver than passion, in a way. Passions come and go. I had a passion for knitting at one point. I had a passion for photography at another point. But because I sort of got bored, maybe not to photography, I still love it, but knitting, I got bored. I wasn't curious about finding new, way of knitting, to be fair. But I was very focused on it, at some point. But then the passion sort of ended. The novelty wore off, so it didn't take me there. But the curiosity I have for sustainability, the curiosity to see how it will go, is like a super huge murder mystery, isn't it? This one, we need to really solve a huge problem, and for me, being part of the puzzle is stimulating. And also, I'm very curious about the human mind. And if I could go back in time, I would probably study psychology as one of my, as a career choice, because I'm super curious. And so my coaching career fascinates me. I'm very curious about it. And I think I'm good at it. And I hope, people that are in this call that have worked with me can testimony to that. I love doing it. I'm curious about it, and I'm good at it. Ask yourself, what are you good at? What are you good at that you enjoy and you like, and you're curious about? Passion, as I said, is like dating. You need other things. You need to be curious about your partner. You need to be interested in them and in their thinking. Once you stop being curious about what they think, you start having problems. Another question that you can ask yourself, or actually ask other people around you, ask them what you are good at. Because other people will have a different perspective, maybe the same, maybe another. I'm quite, in preparation for this, I asked my daughter, who is 10, what do you think mom is good at? And she gave me an answer that melted my heart, because also, well, this is very personal, but I'm going to share it anyway. She said that you're good at being a mom. If you are a parent, sometimes you have lots of self-doubt about how you're doing that particular job. But I love that, because I wouldn't have put it as top of my, being good at. So that doesn't mean that I have to go on and have another 100 kids, because, the time has passed. But maybe this is something that I could have considered in the past. Jokes apart, ask other people what they think you're good at, because it will give you a different perspective that you might not expect. And finally, what's stopping you? What's stopping you from fulfilling your dreams, or, really follow your gut instinct? Let's go back to the gut instinct. What's stopping you from follow what's more in line with who you are, not what your mom wanted for you, or not what your degree says? Because sometimes we take decisions about our lives and when we're very young, 17, 16, 18, and we might not be in line with that anymore. And that's the other thing. There is no perfect job that lasts for a lifetime, or at least not nowadays. Only a few of us are lucky enough to have a job that they will keep on doing for 30 years and being absolutely happy and fulfilled for that length of time. On average, millennials will change jobs 14 times in their lives. That means that these questions need to be asked on a regular basis. What are you doing right now that you're good at, you're enjoying, you're curious about? What do others think about what you're good at, and what's stopping you? For this point in time. In 5 years' time, you might have different priorities. You will be in a different phase of life, and that's the other thing. When you're young, you might have certain needs. When you are, in your 30s, perhaps, you will have a family. I don't know, that's the classical stereotypes, but things change. So you need to be ready to change and to embrace that fear of change as well. But I would say, try and follow your instinct. Now, some people are very detached from their instinct and their gut feelings. So I think a couple of things that I can suggest for you to go back in touch with those is think about maybe writing And other people are like, oh, I'm not a writer. But creativity in any possible shape fosters ideas and it sort of fits itself. When you write, especially though, when you keep a journal, for example, or if you scribble your life as a mind map, or you draw how last year has gone, or write down the key point, pivotal point of your career until this stage, you put on paper your thinking. That makes you literally more intelligent. There is a connection between writing and intelligence. And you find things about yourself that you didn't know. Now, Julia Cameron suggests morning pages. So when you wake up, you start writing without even thinking, without stopping. You put a timer and you literally write for 5 minutes, for example, without stopping. You access a sort of subconscious level there that takes you to places that you didn't know. Now, why am I suggesting that? Because these sort of activities, whether they are creative activities or in particular writing, and I'm a very big fan of that, make you more aware of yourself. And I'll go back to Jaime and his suggestion before about awareness. Absolutely, awareness is super important. If you can focus on yourself and what you really are, rather than, okay, let's talk about passion again. Let's go back to the initial thing, passion. I'm passionate about movies. That doesn't make me a movie star. I'm passionate about, I don't know, maybe some men will be passionate about watching, sports on TV, rugby or football, but, a very little percentage of those people actually do that as a job. So a passion is different from what your work means in your life and the meaning that it can have and the fulfillment that it can give you, because it connects with talent. Do you have a talent for that? And that's why the question, what are you good at that you like doing and you're curious about, is really, really important. You need to start from your strengths. You need to play to your strengths, because I can hear all the time people saying, oh, but I don't have this degree and I don't have enough experience and I don't have enough knowledge. And we focus on the lack. We almost never focus on our strengths. So start by focusing on what you're good at, what your strengths are. There are tests you could do to find your strengths. We spoke to Justin Douglas a few weeks ago about strengths and Strength Finder. It's very important. Understand what you're very good at. See how that combines with the needs of the world, and see whether you're curious about it. Not like me, polishing the bathrooms. So I hope this was helpful. Let me see whether there are any other questions. Are there any questions about all of this? Because it might not be that straightforward to capture, but I would say think about how you can increase your positive feelings as well. I know it sounds very wishy-washy, and today I'm dressed for being wishy-washy, but positive feelings are important because you can focus on your future. When you're not positive, when you're feeling a bit down, you can't focus on goals and future. So again, writing down, perhaps even writing, that's a very good exercise that lots of coaches, and including myself, suggest to raise your happiness in that sense, and so you can focus on your future, is to have a gratitude list. So have maybe a go of writing at least 3 things that you're very grateful for every day, at least 3. And that in itself has been demonstrated that is stronger as an antidepressant than drugs. Just being grateful is stronger than drugs, because when you're grateful, you can't be sad. Think about it. Okay, lots of questions, but we need to find our answers. I love that. Okay, so by the way, guys, because that's the end of the talk from me. But if you have any more questions, I would love to answer your questions. But one thing I wanted to mention is the graduate program. When we talk about these things, if you are a new graduate or someone that is approaching sustainability as a newbie, maybe you're more mature, I'm starting on the 1st of February with a cohort for 6 months. Very affordable price, £49.
That's it. Actually, I have one sponsored place from someone who wanted to give back. So if you want to try and get that place, let me know. I already received a couple of applications, but you never know. And if you want to book yourself on that, on the course, so where we're going to really find out about what road to take and how to find your strengths and how to follow your passion, if you want, how to find flow and all of this stuff. We're going to talk about a lot of things during these 6 months, but it's a process. It's a process. So we start in February, we finish in July. Yeah, and we're going to go through a lot of stuff to prepare you for finding basically your meaningful job. So at the moment, you can see at the bottom of the screen the address to book yourself, to show your interest for the course. And if you are more of a mature professional, maybe you want to inquire or look on the website for the mastermind, which is starting in March. And that's a similar thing, but we focus more on soft skills. So soft skills are for sustainability professionals and leaders. And there is always an opportunity in these courses to have one-to-ones with me. So you're going to access coaching, which for me, I'm doing coaching for myself. And it's transformational. It changed my life. And I promise that's the true, it's the process that is magical. It's not necessarily the coach. I hope I'm a decent coach, but it's the process that is absolutely magical. It's transformational. That's what it's called, transformational coaching. It changed my perspective into so many things, and it affected not just my professional life, but also my personal life. So I would say, have a look, check the website, which is thegreengorilla.co.uk. And if you are a graduate, then book yourself on the course. It's a bargain, and hopefully it's going to help you find that meaningful work that you're looking for. And after that, if there are no more questions, I am going to close for today and say goodbye. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today, for your comments and your participation. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.